Now to the details. A truck driver who took the witness stand on Wednesday in the murder trial of Noel Maitland testified how he picked up a settee from the policeman's apartment and brought it to a car wash. The driver says he was contracted by Maitland, who's charged with the 2022 murder of his girlfriend, Donna Lee Donaldson. Maitland's also charged for the unlawful disposal of her body, which has never been recovered. Robian Williams is covering the trial.
Witness number 8, a driver who operates a Mitsubishi flatbed truck, testified that around mid-2022, he and a now-deceased co-worker known as Carlos were hired by Maitland to move a single piece of settee from an apartment complex in New Kingston to a car wash on Lyndhurst Road. The witness said Maitland, whom he didn't know prior to that morning, arrived at the hardware lot off Constant Spring Road in a high-end vehicle. The witness couldn't remember whether the vehicle was a BMW or a Honda. After negotiating a price, the witness said Maitland told them to follow him. They reportedly drove to Maitland's apartment complex in New Kingston. When we reached the apartment, Noel turned in and we see a security at the gate. Him and the security did a talk and then we drive in behind him, the witness told the court. The delivery man described Maitland ascending to a second-floor balcony. Moments later, Maitland and another man whose identity was not disclosed emerged from the apartment carrying the settee. The furniture was brought down to the truck, secured and then driven to a car wash on Lyndhurst Road where the witness said he unloaded it. The witness said, "By time we drive in, I see a little bar and I see it as a car wash place. I see Noel walk up to the bar. By then, because I know it was morning and I'm a first job, me did want to move and leave cause me need another work cause that the money there, it can't pay me or my second. So me go up on the truck and me say, Carlos, fly the strap." He added that he left immediately after collecting payment. Me go to Noel for me $5,000. Asked by the prosecutor if he recalled Noel's attire at the time, the witness responded, "No, miss, I never recognized nothing. I just get this job and go my way." But things took a turn days later when police seized his truck as part of the ongoing investigation into Donaldson's disappearance. The witness testified that shortly after his truck was confiscated, he began receiving repeated phone calls from Maitland. The first two calls me never recognized who it was, but the third one, me hear the voice and realize it was Noel. Him say, "Me, Noel, the one we carry the settee for." During that conversation, Maitland allegedly asked if the driver would pick up something from an upholstery place, a request the witness found strange and could not understand. He hung up. Later that same day, Maitland called again. This time, the driver said he recorded the conversation using a second phone. He start talk with more attitude. He must say, "Me a talk to you and you don't want to talk to me. Like, them get to you already," the witness told the court. The driver said he eventually handed over the recordings to police after becoming suspicious. "Me start analyze up everything. The things them never did a match up," he said, noting that he showed investigators missed calls from Maitland along with 2 audio recordings of their interactions. Maitland, seated in the dock, was seen taking notes intently during the testimony. The trial continues on Thursday morning at 10. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
A Caricom level committee is being established to examine and potentially remove non-tariff barriers that continue to affect intra-regional trade. That's according to the chairman of Caricom, Dr. Andrew Holness.
The implementation of a 10% baseline tariff on imports from Caricom countries represents a significant shift away from decades of preferential access under the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Our response must include accelerating intra-regional trade under the CSME to reduce over-dependence on any single market. And I'm pleased to say that we have designated Minister Simmons from Barbados and Minister Johnson Smith from Jamaica to lead a team to review and see how we can remove, without the impact of disruption of such changes, non-tariff barriers intra-regionally.
The announcement comes amid news that Caricom could lose nearly $550 million annually as a result of the tariffs imposed by the U.S. Holness says it's important to consider expanding trading ties with other countries given the fallout. To that extent, he says Jamaica has acceded to a partnership between Caricom and the African Export-Import Bank.
We welcome the prodding of businessmen to remove these non-tariff barriers and expanding trade and investment partnerships with Africa, Latin America, and Asia to diversify risk and seize new growth. Jamaica will be signing the Afri-Exim Partnership Agreement, which is a signal of our intent to diversify and expand, and in particular to engage Africa with trade in the region.
And the Caricom chairman says he's anticipating that the International Court of Justice will acknowledge the disproportionate impact of climate change on small island developing states. The court is set to deliver its ruling on July 23 in a case outlining the legal obligation of states to combat climate change.
I would be surprised if the pronouncement were not that there is an impact on, in particular, lesser developed countries from climate change, and in particular small island developing states, and that there should be special provisions in financing made to ensure that there is climate justice in this regard. That would be my expectation, not my pronouncement on what the court may say.
Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew, shared Dr. Holness's view.
We have not relented in our efforts to ensure that we see some level of justice. We suffer significantly as a result of climate change. This is the hurricane season. And right now it is like Russian roulette. We don't know who will be hit. And who will be hit can be hit devastatedly, which would take years of recovery, or the extent of the damage can be such a high percentage of the overall GDP that those countries are set back. We see the effects with respect to the sargassum affecting the beaches throughout the Caribbean and having an impact on our tourism. We see the insidious impact of climate change with respect to the increased temperature and so forth, and how that is affecting our infrastructure, our daily lives, and even health. Climate and agriculture and food security. We are expecting that, and it's reasonable to expect that the court will stand on the side of justice. So we are.
Dr. Terence Drew, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, both men were speaking at Tuesday's closing press conference of the 49th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of Caricom. Parliament must act swiftly to pass the Elderly Care and Protection Bill into law. That's the call from Chairman of the Senate Select Special Committee handling the proposed legislation, Golding Campbell, had remains of an elderly woman who died nearly 2 years ago, but whose death was kept a secret by her caregiver.
It's horrible. But, it's the reason why the work that the Special Select Committee did in the Senate is so important, and why it is urgent that we get this work done. So I was very happy to see some emails coming from the Ministry of Labour as their committee pursues its work to prepare for the drafting of this law. It needs to happen quickly, and I'm happy that Minister Charles has given the go-ahead to get everybody moving to get this done.
The body of Viola Destin was discovered on Sunday, July 6 at her home in Old Hope District in Westmoreland. The police say she had been dead since December 10, 2023. Images seen by our news center show Miss Destin's mummified remains clad in a house dress lying on its back on a mattress. Miss Destin's caregiver, 54-year-old Gina Robinson, was arrested and is facing several charges following the discovery. Senator Golding Campbell has described the incident as horrific.
I'm horrified to hear that anybody could be in their home dead for that length of time and nobody discover it, nobody be engaging with that person to be able to know that the person is not responding. It's horrific. And to die in that way and to have your body just lying there, to the point where it becomes desiccated it's horrible.
Shireen Golding Campbell, Chairman of the Senate Select Committee on the proposed Elderly Care and Protection Act. The Senate Special Select Committee tabled its report on the proposed legislation on Friday, June 27. Meanwhile, founder and executive chairman of the Caribbean Community of Retired Persons, Jean Lowry Chin, says the long-awaited Elderly Care and Protection Act is urgently needed to safeguard the nation's senior citizens.
In their recommendations, for example, they're saying there should be established standards for caregivers, that there should be mandatory training and certification, and that there should be mandatory home visits for the elderly. So here it is, this poor woman on her own, she dies, we don't know how, and nobody knows for 2 years. Why? Because there's no system in place to ensure that there's a regular way to visit. And do you know, just a month ago, we decided to reach out to first responders for a meeting, which is actually being held next week, Thursday. We're going to be meeting with members of ODTEM and the fire service and the police and the National Council to see how we can setting up a parish level registry of these elders who either live alone or live with a caregiver.
Local social work veterans say they have never heard of any incident similar to the one involving Viola Destin in Westmoreland. Laurie Chin says the incident highlights the critical need for stronger oversight and family involvement in elderly care.
Even the technology is there, even to say, let me have a WhatsApp video with my grandma or my auntie just to check on her to see that she's well looked after. I mean, something as simple as that could have been done, and this tragedy could have been not made worse. So I think what we need to do now is we can't wait for the law. This is why we're having a meeting next week to just see how we can have a system where there are visits to these homes, check on their wiring, check on the caregivers, and we do have parish volunteers who are willing to assist with that.
Jean Laurie Chin, founder and executive chairman of the CCRP. She was speaking on Nationwide at 5 on Wednesday. Meanwhile, proprietor of Lynn's funeral home, Calvin Lynn, questioned the condition of the body, stating it couldn't have remained intact unless it had been deliberately treated.
From my knowledge, the body could not have been in that condition for so long, not being decomposed, unless it is treated by some chemical that can prevent decomposition. So I'm saying, in this particular case that is creating so much interest, I wonder, for no obnoxious scent to be around, if the person were able to get any form of formaldehyde, something that can preserve the body for some time, whatever method they would use to work on the body, that would harden the outside tissues, but the inside not embalmed. Because in the embalming process, we use the arteries that we inject the fluid through for someone to, say, hide a dead body for so long. Like I say, I don't think it is so possible.
Calvin Lynn, proprietor of Lynn's funeral home. A 48-hour curfew is in effect in sections of the St. Andrews South Police Division. According to the police, the curfew, which began at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, will remain in effect until 6 on Friday evening. Communities affected by the measure include Chisholm Avenue, Maxfield Avenue, and Happy Grove. The police say during the hours of the curfew, persons within the boundaries are required to remain indoors unless otherwise authorized by the person in charge of enforcement. St. Andrews South continues to be a hotspot, leading the country's murder tally with 47 homicides recorded up to July 5. That number is 3 fewer than the 50 recorded in the corresponding period in 2024. St. Andrews South also leads all police divisions in shootings. It recorded 58 shooting incidents as of July 5. Drivers employed by the Kingston and St. Andrew Health Department have agreed to resume normalcy after 2 days of industrial action. The agreement was reached at a meeting held by the Ministry of Labour with officials of the Jamaica Association of Local Government Officers, representatives of the Southeast Regional Health Authority, and members of the Kingston and St. Andrew Health Department. General Secretary of JALGO, Helene Davis-White, says the parties have agreed to resume talks at the local level.
Convened a meeting this morning at 9 a.m. as they had indicated they would have yesterday. The meeting was attended by representatives from the Southeast Regional Health Authority as well as the Kingston and St. Andrew Health Department as well as representatives of JALGO. The basic understanding and agreement coming out of the meeting is that the parties will go back to the local level and try to resolve the situation at local level, and we will report back to the Ministry of Labour on the 10th of September as to the results of the local level talk.
The drivers staged a sick-out over concerns about retroactive payments and the upgrading of their posts. Their actions affected some services at a few health facilities. Overseas news now. The UK faces a rising and unpredictable threat from Iran, and the government must do more to counter it. That's according to Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee. The committee is publishing the results of a major inquiry which examined Iranian state assassinations and kidnap, espionage, cyber attacks, and the country's nuclear program. The BBC is reporting that the committee, which is tasked with overseeing Britain's spy agencies, has raised particular concern about the sharp increase in plots against opponents of the Iranian regime in the UK. The committee accuses the Labour government of focusing on crisis management and firefighting with Iran, as well as on its nuclear program, at the expense of other threats. That's the news.